Today's hit music, 103CIR, 103CR.com. Brand new from Jason Derulo called Kiss the Sky. 9:08 on the early show with Rick and Lola. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. We got some showers moving through the area. 58 degrees right now, going for a high shy of 70. It's the early show. Good morning to you.
Good morning. We've got a special guest on the line, a gentleman by the name of Dan Tudor. Dan, are you with us?
I am. How are you doing, Rick?
I'm doing fantastic. Now a little bit of backstory. Dan and I went to high school together.
Yes.
Shafter High School, Shafter, California.
Yes.
I was class 84.
Yes.
He was a class 85.
Okay.
And but we've known each other for 40 years. 35, 40 years.
35, 40 years.
We haven't spoken.
Or do the math.
We haven't spoken in at least 25 years. Although again, I follow him on Facebook.
Was that
We're
his
Facebook
choice
friends.
or yours?
I think it was his choice.
Really? Really?
But I followed Dan on Facebook, and then Dan is relocated to North Carolina. And now, Dan, we were wondering, what is it exactly that you do for a living? You do a lot of traveling.
I do a lot of traveling. To make it simple, I have a consulting company, and we consult with athletic departments and college coaches in different parts of the country.
Okay. Now, let me ask you a question. You were never really that good at sports.
I know, that's the irony.
Those who can do, those who can't form a consulting company?
Lola,
Is that what
not.
it is, Dan?
No. No, but now knowledgeable. You're very knowledgeable about sports. I remember, there was a time when you were a sportscaster at one of the local TV stations in Bakersfield. Yeah. So
That's about 7 years. Yeah.
So now you do a lot of traveling, and recently you had a little issue, and for folks like me, I was following you on Facebook, watching the adventures, and had a lot of fun with it. You left town without your wallet.
Well, yes, I did, and I do over 100,000 miles a year in the air.
Wow!
And so I do a lot of traveling, and so I had to go into Utah earlier this week, and I've got it timed out for my drive to the airport from home. Exactly when I have to leave to get there just in time, so I don't have to wait around and stand around and just wait. So I was on schedule. Went and parked my car. I'm getting out. I got like 20 minutes before they start boarding the flight, and I feel in my back pocket. Don't have my wallet. Check the console of my car. It's not there. I check my computer bag. It's not there. And you just have that moment where, oh man, I need to leave for 2 days, and what a stupid reason to cancel a trip and not meet with clients and do business because you forgot your wallet back at the house. And so I thought, well, I've got two choices. I can do that. I can cancel everything, or I can just get on the plane, because I had my passport with me as the backup. I just carry that with me in case I lost my wallet. So Fortunately, I didn't think ahead there. But I don't have any credit cards, no cash, and I've got to rent a car, get hotel rooms, and eat. And so I'm thinking, well, I'm going to get on the plane, and we'll just see what happens. Let's try to figure this out as we go. And
problem solving there.
Yeah, well, by force. And so I did, got through security, got on the plane, and then began researching as I was waiting to take off, like, do you need your license to rent a car? Do you,
Seeing that you're going to be driving it and everything, yeah.
Yeah, so, it kind of, I travel so much, and most trips, are very smooth, and they're well planned, and I don't forget anything, and so the sick, twisted side of me thought, this is going to be kind of fun to see if I can actually do this. And how am I going to eat? How am I going to figure this out? And so, for people on Facebook, then I just sort of turned it into, made lemonade out of the lemons, and said, I'm going to make this a little, adventure and see, let people follow this. And turns out you actually can survive without your wallet.
You can do it now. Now, let me ask you this, though. What was the first hurdle that you came across on your trip?
First hurdle was, because once I was on the plane, I was set. So I get into Salt Lake City, and the first big hurdle was the car rental, because I had to actually drive outside of Salt Lake City into Provo and then back to Salt Lake, and then driving around Salt Lake over this 48-hour period. So the big hurdle was, can I rent a car? Because I had the car rental set up ahead of time, and went to the National Car booth and said, okay, here's the situation. I forgot my wallet back at the house, but, I'm the, executive Grand Poobah Elite member, and that counts for anything. I've got my license here on my phone, because my wife take a picture of my license and send it to me just in case that would help. And he said, no, you actually, state of Utah says you have to have a physical license.
Oh, no.
No.
Drive around. And so I thought, all right, well, and this is 11 o'clock at night. Something is, I had done Uber once before, but it was a pretty easy drive, like from an airport to a hotel, like 5 minutes. I thought, is somebody going to be driving around that wants me to drive me to Provo at 11 o'clock at night? And so I pulled up the app and put in the request, and 5 minutes later I had a response, yep, somebody's on the way. So then you think, well, maybe they don't realize I need them to drive me to Provo, which is like 50 minutes away.
Wow.
And sure enough, he was fine with it. And, so I was headed to the hotel. And I think it was at that moment that I thought, I might actually be able to pull this off. There's still the eating thing, but I might be able to pull this off. And
now let me stop you real quick, Dan. Let me ask you a question now. Now so you're going to take a 50-minute one-way trip to Provo, and this guy's going to take you there. Now you got to pay this guy, and you don't have any cash. How are you going to pay for this trip?
Well, with Uber, and this is kind of where I was going to go with this, is that with Uber, you have to, when you set up your account, you preload a credit card.
Ah.
Nice. Okay.
So it's there. So you can survive. If your app is tied to the credit card, then you're good. So I knew that if I could find some Starbucks, I'd be okay, because I have my card, tied to my Starbucks account, and I could go to the app and pay with the app.
Well, there
so
you go.
I mean, the great thing about Uber, if you've never tried it, or if people listening have never tried it, is that you get in they know who you are, and you can see that who the driver is, and the car and everything, and you get in, and they just drive you, because you have to preset where you're going to go, and so it's all mapped out, and you get there, you don't pay them, you don't tip them, you just get out of the car and say thanks, and they drive off. And
wow.
So it's all automatic, and
That's convenient.
Let's see. We just got Uber in Charleston.
Yeah.
In the last few months. So a very rural area for us. So I mean, we all know about Uber, but Charleston is the first city in West Virginia to actually pick that up.
Yeah. Again, we're talking to Dan Tudor. Dan is an old high school friend of mine who made a business trip without his wallet, and we're finding out about his adventures. All right, Dan. I'm sorry to interrupt. Continue, please.
No, well, I just kind of from there, I check into the hotel, and the other thing is, when I got to the hotel, of course, they ask you for your ID and your credit card for incidentals. In this case, the school that I was working with had paid for the hotel room. Mm-hmm. They still needed the card. And I said, all right, well, I'm not going to be able to give that to you, because it's
on my dresser. Yeah.
At North Carolina. And they said, no problem. We just, we can't tie it to room service and everything. And, so again, for people traveling, they want a credit card. Well, there's, part of me always thought, well, that's just because if you steal something from the room, then they have a way to charge you back.
Right.
And actually, it's just to tie in, room service or something like that. And so if you're not going to use that, you can just decline and not do a credit card.
I did not know that. Lesson learned.
Lesson learned. We always figured you had to put down a credit card. So what we're learning from this trip is that if you at least have your phone and those apps available to you, you can actually navigate and travel without a wallet on you and make a very pleasant trip out of it.
Well, yeah, you got to have, if you're flying, you got to have at least your passport. And if you're going to drive, you do have to have your physical license. Now,
okay.
Right.
That's where we are right now. You can't just load your license, because I have Apple Pay. So I have an iPhone, and you have a credit card that you can load on Apple Pay. And I just had never used it before. And so that was the other part of this was, I knew I had Apple Pay, so I knew I had a credit card. If I could find a place with Apple Pay, I could pay for something. But then the question is, well, how do you know which place takes Apple Pay and which one doesn't?
Right.
And so again, one of the things on the plane, I got on, and sure enough, there's an app that somebody has that will give you a mapping location of all the places around you that have Apple Pay as an option. Now, I didn't end up using it, but if you've got Apple Pay and not a lot of retailers and restaurants take it yet, but enough do to make it worth it, then download, search for the Apple Pay Finder, and you can have a real-time live map of, as you're walking around, which places take Apple Pay.
That is so
now,
cool that you were able to navigate all of this.
Now, are you looking at the if you didn't have the Apple Pay and so, are you looking at Starbucks or vending machines basically as your only options? Did you have your bank card?
Panhandling on the side of the street,
Yeah.
We'll consult for food.
As a joke, as this was going on, and one of my friends on Facebook suggested midway through or early on, says, we should start a GoFundMe page for Dan, raise money for him. And so I did. I was on the plane, I had Wi-Fi, and so I had my laptop, and I thought, that'd be funny, just, and I'll make fun of myself and, that I'm in need. Well, sure enough, two of my friends actually donated at $30 to the GoFundMe campaign, which I didn't use. And I got to figure out a way I have to figure out a way to refund them now out of that, because I didn't need the money. I really wasn't doing it to search for it. In fact, I think I put the goal was $1,300,000.
Well, that's a good goal.
$300 for the trip, and if somebody would give me $1 million, then I wouldn't have to travel anymore, and
there
we
you
could just
go.
be done with it.
That's awesome.
It's fantastic. All right, well, Dan, so the moral to this story is that if you've got to see, because here's the dilemma, Dan. You and I haven't spoken in a long time, like 25 years, maybe, something like that.
Yeah, at least.
I am Mr. Anti-Technology. I think that Skynet will become aware, and our phones are going to turn on us, just like maximum overdrive, and we're all gonna die from artificial intelligence, going to take over the world. So I'm toying with the idea. I have a smartphone, but I'm always toying with the idea of getting rid of it. But learning from this experience, maybe that's not such a good idea.
Well, I feel that if you didn't have your smartphone, you would have been up a creek without a rowboat.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I would have been totally up that creek so bad. I wouldn't have gone. I would have had to turn around and gone home. And, yeah, I agree with you, Rick, that, technology, it's great, but it can be overused, and it can be something that, who knows what the future will hold. But for right now, actually, as I was thinking about all this, I think the big question I have is, like with driver's licenses, everything else is now electronic, and yet you still need that card, that license to do things. So that was really the only thing that prevented me from being totally walletless.
Wow. So Castaway Dan made it home okay.
He did, yeah, and it was good. A lot of stuff learned. And going back to Uber real quick, I totaled it up. I spent about $40 or $50 less on Uber than I would have with a rental car.
Wow!
So it actually saves money.
Are you going to use it more often in the future? Is that your plan now?
Yeah, I mean, now that I know that you can actually get like from long distances, especially like if you're in a big city, it doesn't make any sense to rent a car. You can you could pretty much wherever you are, call Uber and somebody's going to be willing to drive it.
Oh, we did a story earlier today. Los Angeles, the Coliseum for the Rams game on Sunday, $200 to park. So
wow, yeah.
So having an Uber.
Crazy.
Uber.
You drive. I drove into New York City one time and had to park downtown, and that was, I think, about $80 just to park your car in a garage down in Manhattan.
That's crazy.
Insane.
That's crazy. Again, we're talking to Dan Tudor. He's an old high school friend of mine, and the adventures of Castaway Dan.
All right, Dan, so before you go, I need some dirt, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
She's
you've known
scheming.
him since high school. Has he always been this sort of weird, or, I mean, can you give me something to go on?
You know what? Here's the thing about Rick. First of all, the first thing when I was getting ready to talk and think about, man, what do I remember about Rick Height? He was a heck of a baseball player, first of all.
Yeah.
Just so that everybody out there knows, really good baseball player. Second of all, the thing that kept coming back to me was that he is right now, he is doing what he was meant to do. Because even back then, he was a radio guy. He was a theater guy. And so, I mean, this, like, he sounds the same. He did not wind up, in radio by accident. This is what he was he was born to do.
Wow.
So,
how much
yeah,
did you pay him, Rick?
You know,
to not give me
I gotta
anything.
tell you.
I get nothing.
I got to tell you, now Dan's right. I was a heck of a baseball player until my damn cousin Burke knocked me out of the starting spot for catcher. As you know, so I did good. Now, Dan, I got to ask you something though, because Lola asked you if you were in the Charlie Brown play, and you'd mentioned you were too cool for that. Now you were in our town, so you weren't that cool.
No, I was totally kidding. I was at least as cool as Rick, and probably not as cool.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, it
That's
seems like
awesome.
you've done well for yourself. Now, tell us real quickly. We're running low on time, but a little bit about your company. What if we've got universities in this state, so maybe someone's listening that might want to check out your services. What do you guys got?
You know, and most universities know kind of what we do.
It's a super secret society, apparently.
It is a weird world, of university athletics, because it's very closed off. They're very secretive and protective, and have really incredibly hard jobs. But we have, we work with, and a person who's become a pretty good friend, and he's a great guy, Ken Merksek at University of Charleston, their men's volleyball coach.
Oh yeah.
So we work with him, and and we've worked with some clients at Bluefield before. So I'm not unfamiliar with the area. And next time I'm through, now I've got to come by and take Rick out to lunch, or let him take me out to lunch.
Let him take you out to lunch.
Yeah, that'd be my pleasure.
I would
That'd be
totally
good.
make him pay. And finally, what's your take on the Mountaineers for this year?
I'm actually going to, and I know the Mountaineers are closer to you, but the big game here, because we have a little mini season ticket package at the University of North Carolina. You got Virginia Tech and North Carolina this weekend,
Right.
Oh, wow.
which is huge. Those are two ranked teams, and that's going to be a big game, especially because it's going to be pouring rain. So it'll be a fun one to
Sure.
watch. I think West Virginia is actually, for the the competition that they face, I think they're going to hold their own really well. I mean,
As they made that
Still
big
early,
comeback against Kansas.
Kansas State, yeah.
Kansas State. So, and that was insane. It was like, what the heck happened with that game?
I think ever since, my take was ever since Rich Rodriguez left, they're sort of searching for that, the identity, because they kind of rose up and really became a, just a real vaunted power when he was there, and then he left, and he kind of, I think they've been struggling to find an identity. So maybe this is the year they do that.
Hopefully.
Very
Let's hope they
good.
do.
Again, talking to a high school buddy of Rick, Dan Tudor. Dan, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's a blast, guys.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Hey, Dan, if you'll hang the line, we'll say our goodbyes off the air, okay, man?
Awesome.
All right, thanks a lot.
Very good. It's the early show with Rick and Lola. It is 9:24, Rick.
9:20. Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
I told Dan. Yeah, we'll take about 5-10 minutes to talk about the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
20 minutes later. Okay,
Yeah.
we're right now.
Oopsie.
All right. It's the early show with Rick and Lola. Ed Sheeran coming up next. Stick around.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Yesterday.